She doesn't destroy him with violence. She doesn't scream, break dishes, or threaten to leave. No, that would be too obvious, too visible. What she does instead is quieter, slower, almost elegant in its precision. She dismantles him one sigh, one eye roll, one disappointed look at a time. It starts small. So small he doesn't even notice it happening. A tone in her voice when he speaks. A subtle pause before she answers. A small correction. Don't say it like that. A comment about how her friend's husband does things differently. It's never framed as cruelty. It's advice, suggestion, just trying to help. But each one lands like a tiny incision in his confidence. First, he laughs it off. That's just how she is. He tells himself she's just particular, just emotional, just stressed. He doesn't want conflict, so he lets it slide. He picks his battles. But here's what he doesn't know. The war has already started. Because the moment a man starts managing a woman's moods instead of living his truth, he's already lost the ground beneath his feet. You see, destruction doesn't begin with shouting. It begins with silence, with a man biting his tongue because he doesn't want to upset her. With him saying it's fine, when it's not. With him apologizing for things he didn't even do, just to restore peace. That's how it begins. The slow erosion of self-respect disguised as being a good partner. Soon, her disappointment becomes his compass. He starts measuring his days by how calm she is. If she's smiling, he feels safe. If she's quiet, his chest tightens. If she sighs, he starts scanning for what he might have done wrong. He doesn't know it yet, but he's not her partner anymore. He's her emotional manager. Every decision, what shirt to wear, which friends to see, when to come home, runs through the same silent filter. Will she be okay with this? Not, do I want this? Not, does this make sense for me? But what will she think? His identity slowly dissolves into her emotional weather. And she senses it. Women always do. That's when the shift happens, the unspoken transition from partnership to performance. Suddenly, everything he does becomes invisible. Working long hours? That's what a man should do. Fixing the broken pipe? Bare minimum. Taking care of the kids? That's helping, not parenting. Gratitude fades. Expectation grows. He buys her flowers. She says, you didn't have to. But her tone says, you should have done it sooner. He plans a surprise dinner. She finds a reason to be underwhelmed. He listens to her problems for hours. But when he shares his, she sighs, you always make it about you. That's when something inside him starts to fracture. It's not anger, not yet. It's confusion. He's doing everything he thought a good man should. He's patient, reliable, loyal. He provides, he listens, he stays. So why does it feel like the more he gives, the less he's valued? Because somewhere along the way, the relationship stopped being about love and started being about control. It's control masked as care. Where were you? Why didn't you answer? Who were you with? She frames it as concern, but it's surveillance. Every question is a test, every delay a potential crime. And when he defends himself, she plays the victim. Why are you getting so defensive? I was just asking. Soon he learns not to argue, not to question. He explains, justifies, reassures. He hands over his phone. He tells her where he's going, what he's doing, who he's with, as if he were a teenager reporting to a parent. And with each act of obedience, she loses a little more respect for him. Because deep down, she doesn't want control. She wants strength. She wants a man who chooses her, not one who fears her. But she doesn't stop. She keeps testing, keeps pushing, keeps tightening the leash. And he keeps complying, not because he's weak, but because he loves her. Because he thinks love means making her happy at all costs. Because somewhere deep in his upbringing, he learned that a woman's comfort is his responsibility. What he doesn't know is that this exact instinct, the one that makes him kind, protective, loyal, is the very weapon being used against him. You see, a woman doesn't have to destroy a man physically. She only has to convince him that her happiness depends on him, and watch him spend his entire life chasing an approval she'll never give. That's how it begins. Not with a slap, not with a scream, with a sigh, with a look, with a man who stops living for himself and starts living not to disappoint her. And by the time he realizes it, it's already too late. Because what's been destroyed isn't his life, it's his sense of self. And without that, he's just a man existing in someone else's story. At first, he doesn't see it as destruction. He calls it compromise, understanding, being the bigger person. He tells his friends, the few that are still around, that relationships just take effort, that she's emotional, that he just has to be patient. He laughs it off when they joke about him being whipped, but deep down, a quiet dread starts to grow, a feeling that something is slipping through his fingers, and he doesn't even know what it is. It's him. He's disappearing. Not all at once, but piece by piece. The first part that goes is his voice. He stops expressing opinions that might lead to arguments. He used to have strong beliefs, now everything's fine. He used to love talking about his goals, his plans, his ideas. Now he filters his thoughts before they ever leave his mouth. He doesn't even notice it happening. It's just easier this way. Easier than another cold stare, another sigh, another, "Why would you even say that?" Then he loses his time. He starts canceling plans. Not because she told him to, oh no, she's too clever for that. She just says things like, "It's fine, go if you want," with a tone that means the exact opposite. So he stays. Again and again. He tells himself he's choosing her. But what he's really choosing is the avoidance of guilt. Soon, he loses his confidence. He used to walk with purpose, to make decisions easily. Now, every choice feels like a potential mistake. He second-guesses himself constantly. He starts asking for permission instead of forgiveness, even for things that don't need approval. "Is it okay if I go to the gym tonight? Do you mind if I buy this? Are you sure you're not upset?" He's not a man anymore. He's a boy waiting for a nod of approval from someone who treats him like a misbehaving child. And she, consciously or not, begins to enjoy it. That subtle power. That quiet dominance. Because control feels like safety to her. Every time he apologizes, every time he bends, every time he tries harder to please her, she feels secure. Not loved, but in control. But here's the paradox. The more control she gains, the less she respects him. Because deep down, no woman truly admires a man she can command. Attraction doesn't grow from obedience, it grows from strength, from self-respect, from a man who can say no when it matters. But he's forgotten how. Now, everything in his life revolves around avoiding her disappointment. He walks into his own home and scans her face for mood signals. Is she cold? Distant? Irritated? He adjusts himself accordingly. Quiet if she's angry, funny if she's sad, invisible if she's overwhelmed. He becomes a mirror reflecting what she wants to see, instead of who he truly is. And the worst part? He doesn't even resent her. Not yet. He resents himself. For not being enough. For always failing. For never getting it right. He starts believing her narrative. That he's careless, inattentive, lazy, ungrateful. He internalizes every criticism until it becomes self-talk. She's right. I do forget things. She's right. I don't listen enough. She's right. I should do better. And so he tries harder, works longer, gives more. But the more he gives, the emptier he feels. Because love built on appeasement isn't love. It's servitude. He doesn't know it yet, but he's living in a form of psychological debt. He keeps paying interest on someone else's insecurity. And every time she says, "You never do enough," he believes her a little more. Until one day, he looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the man staring back. The spark in his eyes, gone. The strength in his posture, gone. The sense of freedom in his chest, gone. He's a ghost now. A man who exists only to maintain peace that never lasts. And she'll look at him, at this hollow version of the man she once admired, and say, "You've changed." But she'll never understand the cruel irony. He changed trying to make her happy. And in doing so, he became the one man she could no longer love. It doesn't happen in one explosion. It's quieter than that, almost invisible. The breaking point is not a scream, not a slammed door, not a moment of rage. It's a whisper inside his head that says, I can't do this anymore. And once that voice appears, it never truly goes away. He'll still go through the motions. Smile when she walks into the room, say I love you when she expects it, nod when she complains. But something essential inside him starts to shut down. He no longer feels with her. He just exists beside her. His laughter becomes mechanical. His eyes lose that spark of mischief, of life, of presence. He becomes what I call the functioning ghost. Alive, but emotionally gone. She'll notice it, of course, and she'll use it as evidence. You've changed. You don't love me like you used to. You're so distant. And he'll want to explain. He'll want to tell her that the distance she feels isn't neglect, it's self-defense. That he's built walls because every time he let her in, she used his openness as a weapon. But he won't say it, because he knows the truth doesn't matter. In her eyes, his silence is guilt. She'll provoke him subtly at first, then directly, because for some women, chaos is oxygen. If she can make him angry, she can still control him. If she can make him explain, she can still dominate him. If she can make him apologize, she can still drain him. But if he stops reacting, if he goes quiet, calm, detached, she starts to panic. Because control depends on response, and nothing terrifies a manipulator more than indifference. So she'll escalate. She'll create drama where none exists. She'll accuse him of not caring. She'll pick fights over nothing, just to make him feel something again. Guilt, frustration, exhaustion, anything but peace. Because peace, for her, means she's losing her grip. He'll endure it longer than anyone thinks possible. Because that's what men do. They endure. He'll tell himself things will get better after the stress passes, after the kids grow up, after she calms down. He'll keep making excuses for her behavior, rationalizing the pain because he's terrified of the alternative. Admitting that the woman he built his life around is the one destroying it. But there comes a night, always, when something inside him snaps in silence. He's sitting in the car outside their home, hands on the wheel, headlights off, engine still running. And he realizes he's been sitting there for 30 minutes. Not because he's tired, but because he doesn't want to go inside. That's when it hits him. The place that was supposed to be his refuge feels like a battlefield. The woman who was supposed to love him feels like his warden. And the life he built feels like a sentence he's serving. That's when the soul begins to rot. Not because of hatred, but because of exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones and whispers, maybe this is just who you are now. He stops arguing. Not because he agrees, but because he's given up on being understood. He stops defending himself. Not because he's guilty, but because he knows the verdict is already written. He stops trying to win her approval. Not because he doesn't care, but because he finally realizes that approval was never the prize. It was the leash. And then comes the cruelest twist. The very moment he detaches, when he's emotionally numb, spiritually empty, she suddenly becomes kind again. Soft, sweet. She wants to reconnect. She misses how things used to be. She says she wants to fix it, but he's too far gone. He can't feel it anymore. Her warmth doesn't heal him, it confuses him. Because he's seen this cycle too many times. The tenderness that follows the torture. The I love you that only appears after she's broken him down again. It's not love, it's maintenance. It's how she keeps him tethered. And yet he stays. Not because he's weak, but because he's human. Because leaving means admitting failure. Because he still believes maybe, just maybe, she'll remember the man she fell in love with and stop destroying him for not being her idea of perfection. But that's not how this story ends. Because one day he won't sit in that car anymore. He'll start the engine. He'll drive. And for the first time in years, he won't be running from her. He'll be running back to himself. There's no dramatic explosion. No shouting match. No thrown suitcase down the stairs. The end doesn't arrive with chaos. It arrives with clarity. One quiet morning, he wakes up beside her, listens to the rhythm of her breathing, looks at the ceiling, and realizes he feels absolutely nothing. Not anger, not love, not fear, just nothing. That's how freedom begins, not with courage, but with emptiness. The moment he understands that there's nothing left to save, that the version of him she fell in love with died trying to make her happy. He sits at the edge of the bed, hands clasped, staring at the floor. The memories flash by like a movie, all the moments he stayed silent to avoid a fight, all the times he apologized just to make peace, all the little pieces of himself he gave away hoping it would be enough. It never was. It never could be, because she didn't want him. She wanted control dressed as love. And the cruel truth hits him like cold water. She didn't destroy him because she hated him. She destroyed him because he allowed her to. He let it happen out of love, out of fear, out of hope. He thought patience would turn the tide. He thought sacrifice would inspire gratitude. He thought if he just tried harder, she'd finally see the man he really was. But what she saw was compliance. And compliance kills attraction faster than betrayal ever could. So now he stands up, not to argue, not to explain, not to seek closure, just to leave. No goodbye, no long speech, no last plea for understanding. He doesn't owe her an exit performance. She's had the stage for years. He's reclaiming silence, his silence, the kind that heals instead of hides. When she realizes what's happening, she'll panic. She'll beg. She'll bargain. She'll cry. She'll say, "You're overreacting." She'll say, "We can fix this." She'll say, "You're not thinking straight." But for the first time in years, he is. He's thinking clearer than ever. Because clarity is what remains when the fear is gone. He finally understands that love isn't measured by how much pain you can endure. That peace isn't selfish. It's sacred. That being alone is not the same as being empty. That a man doesn't lose his worth just because someone else stopped seeing it. He walks out into the morning light, and for a moment, he feels the strange ache of absence. The silence of her voice, the space where her control used to live. But beneath that, there's something else. A pulse. A heartbeat he hasn't heard in years. His own. It's steady, strong, real. And as he drives with no destination, he realizes the most terrifying part of leaving wasn't losing her. It was meeting himself again. He remembers the man who once laughed easily. The man who had dreams bigger than routine. The man who didn't need permission to exist. The man who once believed love was supposed to feel like freedom, not captivity. And maybe, just maybe, he'll find that man again. Because here's the truth most people never admit. A woman can ruin a man's life, but only if he forgets it's his life. And the moment he remembers that, the moment he decides he doesn't need her approval, her permission, or her forgiveness, that's the moment her power ends. That's not heartbreak. That's resurrection. And as he drives into the horizon, windows down, sunlight on his face, he's not running away anymore. He's finally going home to himself.